Good morning. This is my third job of the day. It'll probably be where I spend the rest of the day. I'm back at the little bridge house. I had done the front before around the stairs and the entrance, and today I'm over here doing closer to the pond. If you look back in my other video where I finished, I said I needed to do further behind, and this is the garden that's further behind that. So I don't need to touch any of the shrubs. I don't need to do those. I just need to get in and do the weeding. There's just a few things. I came last year and I did a huge weeding job here, and this is sort of what's popping up from last year because nobody's touched it since. We got nice ferns and my favorite little bridge and a few things there, a few weeds in there, and the biggest amount of weeds are in this garden here. Go over and see what I did last time. Just make sure it still looks okay. So we've got a few weeds popping up, but nothing terrible. I just need to get a shovel in there and dig them out. And over here, some of the grass that's under the rock that I couldn't get the roots of, and I should probably just finish giving that a little clean out under those hedges over there. And over here we've got some of the colt's foot that I had pulled out, but really not bad. So that's what a garden after 2 weeks looks like. Over here, it's for sure you're gonna have dandelions popping up because you can't always get all of their roots, especially when it's a massive weeding job. Like I can see weeds in there that I'll have to go in and get. But those are all just details now. Those are a lot easier to get now that I have everything else weeded out, so it'll take me 5 minutes. The same thing's gonna happen in this garden in 2 weeks. Some of these dandelions that are growing very close to other plants, you'll see them pop back up because I can't get all of the root, and if we break it without taking any of the roots, they come back. But sometimes, like I said, we don't have a choice. It can't always be immaculate unless you're willing to move big rocks to get out all the plants, which we are not. So keep it clean, remove the greenery as much as you can, like I said, to prevent the roots from getting any kind of nourishment. And if you stay on top of it, it will gently, slowly die back and not return. So that's the point. I'm gonna start in this area because it's small and confined, and work my way around to the big pond. So let's get started. And I also have to be careful because I don't know exactly which way the irrigation system goes in this garden. I can't remember if there is one, if it's underground, above ground like the others. So work along until I find them. All this tall stuff is goldenrod. I saw that there's a huge patch of goldenrod in the back. I can see it from the front garden. So I think I'm gonna take it out of this garden because we have small astilbes and that won't grow very well if we leave the the goldenrod. So all those big tall plants are going to be dug up, I think. See, like this one, when I pull on it, it makes the dianthus shake. So that tells me this root's right under this plant and I don't want to take out the flowers, so I'm gonna cut this right at the base and hopefully it will die back naturally. See, my only problem is there's nothing else growing in this garden, so it's kind of bare if I take it all out. I could maybe leave this clump at this side, and if the homeowner decides to plant something else, well, I'll suggest planting something here. But I want these stilbees to have enough space to live. So maybe, like I said, I'll keep these and take out those. So this part looks better. You can see these stilbe now. I decided to take out all the goldenrod because it was too overpowering. Even this milkweed. Again, it's so good for pollinators. I don't see any monarch's eggs on it. You would see little white spots on the underside of a leaf, but still don't really want to take them out. This is hens and chicks. This will be fine with the milkweed. This will probably grow around it. But right here the soil is very dry anyway, so kind of whatever wants to grow. But like I said, the goldenrod was too overpowering for the littlest stilbees. And like I said, there's another full garden of goldenrod in the back, so the pollinators will have those flowers, and it's nice to have some variety too. So as much as, you know, you want to keep everything variety. So this is going to be a bit of a pain and probably mosquito-y. I can see weeds, and I can see that there is some lamium. So goldenrod, dandelions, and lamium, and some beautiful grasses that we're gonna try to keep confined to the pond area. I'm not sure what this big plant is. But yeah, I'll start in here because there seems to be quite a bit to do, and then work my way around over that way. So I've decided to take out this plant here. I decided it's not on purpose. I don't think anybody would plant anything this close to the rocks. You wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to get a shovel in. So that's what tells me this can come out. It's very tall. It hides a lot of the smaller plants behind it, so for that reason it's coming out. I'm sorry if it is a plant that I'm not recognizing. I'm worried that it's monkshood or something. I'm not super familiar with the plant. I'm still tempted to leave it. I'll probably leave it until the very last thing I pull out, just so I take time to think and I've tried the plant app, but they give me too many different choices, so I just don't want to pull out a proper plant if it could even be transplanted, so I'm gonna think on that one. So this was a pretty soggy job, but I do find it kind of interesting how the soil here is very rich. It's, if you were to dig some of the goop out and put it on the gardens, it would be excellent fertilizer. Right here, this is a lot of grass roots that are mixed up in between the rocks. Once it dries out a little bit, it'll be easy to come in and pull up on some of these, but my hands right now are kind of spent from being, this was very wet pulling it out in those gloves, so I will go gloveless on that hand unless I have a spare glove in the car. But anyway, it looks good. I don't want these reeds coming too far forward. They're pretty, but they can get into your grass, and you know, that's not going to be nice if it gets mowed to step on. That's pretty sharp, so try to keep it contained to where the water is, and that's pretty cool. This part looks nice and clean. I'm gonna have to get over there after, but I'm gonna continue on that way. Just here, if you remember, when I did the initial walkthrough, it had been driven over by a car or something. They were trying to get to the backyard. I guess they had to take down a big tree, which is too bad, but I can see remnants of said big tree. I don't always remember everything that's on everyone's property, so yeah, this ground is very compacted. It's hard to dig in. It's hard to tell where I need to put the edge, but I'm sure I did this last year, and I would have made it big enough for these hostas that are pretty small now, but they'll pop out like these guys to the edge. So I'm gonna stick to the existing edge, and fingers crossed that those hostas grow out and it's not just a big blank place of earth right here. So I'll get on with it. This tree too isn't doing very well, which is sad again. But while I'm weeding, I'm noticing there are a lot of little bugs entering. See? They've got all their little holes. Sorry, they move fast. You see, he just went in that little hole and he came out of that little hole. I'm not sure if it's kind of wasp, but it looks like it has a black, it looks like an ant with wings, kind of. That would be how I would describe that. Very small and living in the tree. So I'm sure this tree will be next to come out. So that's sad. It's a beautiful old tree, but it looks pretty diseased. So looks like he's been hanging on to it as long as possible, which kudos for that. But oh, Poor tree. So I just pulled this plant out. This is a weed. It looks a lot like rhubarb. It gets big leaves, kind of purpley red stalks, but this grows and it carries picky little seed heads that are like Velcro. It's a burr plant, so if you have a dog, maybe kids, they're the little brown balls that have all kinds of little spikes on them that attach to everything. So if you see one of these, this one, I remember it from last year. It was quite a big plant, so I'm not hoping to get the root out. I'm just trying to cut this back because they do have a dog here, and I would not want the dog getting covered in burrs because I missed the plant. So you can see where I'm digging it out of. It's quite bushy in there with all the hostas, but over here is looking tidier, a bit cleaner. I'm just trying to throw the earth onto some of the old hosta leaves that are broken down, because those dead leaves that are on the ground now will just go into sort of a organic compost, and will give nutrients back into the soil, which is always important. So I'm going to finish digging out the burr bush. And these prickly guys, the prickly lettuce, are the ones with that underground root that I showed you in a video about weeding. So I know I'm not getting the root out, but I'm hoping these hostas grow over, and that was just spring growth. Because what happens is in the spring, some of these weeds start to grow before any of the plants have, so they get a lot more sun. But as the hostas and that grow up, they lose more and more sun exposure around them, so they don't grow as fast and they don't grow as well. So if you can get the hostas to grow over weeds, the weed population is going to be greatly reduced. So this all looks pretty good. Nice and clean in there and all around here. And then all I will have left on this side of the bridge is that part there underneath. But I'm waiting to do that until the end because I don't want to have wet hands for the rest of the day, and I only have one glove left. So I'm going to start on the fern forest. It's pretty good. It covers the ground quite a bit, so there's not too much weeding in there. It's just going to be this area, which it looks probably worse than it is, but it still looks pretty bad with some of those little weeds. I'm not a fan of the tiny weeds. And yeah, that'll be what I get done today. I think if I have time, I'm gonna go zip around those other gardens, but we'll see what the time's like. The only one good thing about here is everything's in the shade. And going back to that plant, which I'm trying to decide whether or not is a weed or some kind of nice flower, that guy there, I do see little plants popping up. I'm just trying to find one. I've pulled a few. And sometimes how you want to gauge how invasive a plant is how many babies it can make from seed and what those babies do. So you see here, this is that same plant and it's growing in the grass. And this will have been mowed and it keeps growing. It doesn't die because it's getting cut with a lawnmower. If you think of a rose bush or something, I don't know, you can mow them down, but after a while they're going to turn brown and die. But these guys are getting mowed on a weekly, I don't know, I don't mow the lawn here, but they're getting mowed at least bi-weekly. I'm guessing weekly, and they're popping up in the grass, so I'm leaning towards that being a weed. It just looks so nice there, since there's nothing else really in this garden. Anyway, still tempted to leave it for this visit, and I can always take it out another time. It adds a little quelque chose. So yeah, time to get started. I do from here forward, so it's not too much more. So these guys are asters, and you can see they're good for pollinators. They're a native flower. I'm gonna see what they look like once I have the garden cleared out a little bit. Maybe that bunch can stay. But the point with using native plants in gardens, this one's a little bit wild, but using these kind of plants in ornamental gardens, they can split and spread and grow wherever. They don't tend to grow uniformly, and a lot of people get turned off by that. So, like I said before, I try to leave native plants if they look good and they can sort of stay together. These aren't super invasive and they don't have a big root system, so if you wanted to, you could pull them out. But always any flower you can leave for the pollinators, the better. But sometimes, you know, I don't have a choice. These aren't my gardens. Other people have ideas of what they want their garden to look like, and they have a right to that because it's their garden and it's their house. So I just try to inspire people to, you know, maybe accept a few native plants here and there, but if we have to take them out, then that's okay too. Okay, so I'm done for today. This is all good. I need to come back to do a different garden later in the week, but this is great. The homeowner came out just as I was finishing and ended up taking out the bridge. It was hazardous. He actually put a foot through it. So anyway, it's all done for today.